Hi everyone, it's Becky here. So today is it's the second sunny day, and I'm going out again in the afternoon to find something in my neighborhood to sketch, to capture the last bits of autumn. So it's very rare to have a perfect sunny day like this in the fall in Vancouver, BC, because autumn is the rain season. So after walking around a little bit, I decided to sketch this view with this large golden orange tree in the foreground and the two houses behind. So it might seem really easy to see this view in a camera's eye because this is only part of the view. So in real life, when we're outside, we're seeing everything in about 360-degree views. So sometimes it can be tricky to select how much to include and which parts to include. And in the next part of my video, I'm going to show you my drawing process to see what I include. So a lot of times when I'm sketching a landscape, I like to draw a frame first, so it's easier to fit everything inside, the date and the date. Now I'm kind of visualizing the size and placement. So the main object, like I mentioned before in my previous video, is really important when we're sketching a landscape to find a main object in the foreground. So in this case, it's this big golden tree, and I'm not drawing it all the way to the top. It's kind of cut off from the upper part. It's okay, I think it's really natural. As you can see, I drew the trunk first, and now I'm drawing the contour outline. After the outline, I'm starting to draw the visible branches and twigs, and using simple squiggly lines to show the textures for the leaves. And I'm seeing and I'm barely looking at the paper to add these textural lines. So this part is actually pretty fun, relaxing, and active. I'm not stressing about the accurate placement of these textural lines. So just looking at the tree and then moving my hand on paper without looking at it very much. And now I'm adding some accentuation by using multiple lines to suggest shade in the middle of the tree. And now I'm drawing the sidewalk. The angles is kind of important because there's a bit of perspective here. And now adding this smaller tree on the other side of the sidewalk. And this pole here with a sign. And now I'm starting to draw the rooftop of this house and a bit of texture for the roof behind the poles. And also the other things like bushes and grass in front of it. Adding some more house details like window frames. So when I'm sketching, I'm seeing the different objects in layers, which one is behind the other. And now I'm drawing the outline of this car parked on the street, and then adding the windows and the outline of this car. So every car had a different design. I always start drawing the outline and then the wheels and the shape of the windows. There's another tree in between these two cars by the sidewalk. Again, I started with drawing the trunk and then the outline of the canopy. Adding the garage door there. Okay, and now I'm seeing and comparing my drawing, and I decided to connect the bushes behind the rear of that car, and then this little tree here. And then connecting this other car, but it's mostly being covered by this tree in the foreground. So I started with the tree trunk, the branches and twigs, a very interesting form. So now I'm thinking that if you're sitting with me right now by the sidewalk, you're probably going to come up with very different kind of line works, seeing and feeling this scenery in a different way than I do. So when I'm drawing, I'm not drawing every single detail that's out there. There are a million details out there. I'm only drawing what I see and what I feel is more important, that speaks about the essence. So if you were sketching this view with me, you're probably gonna have a different composition, and selecting the different elements that you think is really important. So your drawing is gonna turn out different from mine, and that's why I don't really encourage people to copy my artwork, because seeing with your own eyes and feelings is much more important than just copying the physical stuff. And I think copying a little bit is okay sometimes to learn a certain technical skill. But if you really want to have your own style, then it's really important to see and draw on your own. Okay, so after drawing all the details for the three trees, I'm starting to fill in the blank spaces between the three trees, like the trees in the distance. And then I am drawing the grass textures for the lawn in the very foreground. So I'm adding a lot of textural details because the lawn is in the very foreground, and things in the foreground in the drawing should have more details. And here is the finished drawing. It took me about 15 to 20 minutes. Okay, now I'm ready to paint watercolors. So when painting a landscape, I always like to paint the sky first because it's always on the very back. So I wetted the sky area first with clear water, grabbing some cerulean blue, and I mixed in a little bit viridian green to get a turquoise blue. That's the color that I feel of the sky today. And keep it quite watery and translucent. The sky should be more translucent compared to the other solid objects like the houses, the trees. Keep it nice and loose. Just one single layer and that's it. Also adding the sky color in between the holes of these trees. And now I'm wetting the bottom part of this sketch, painting on a mix of medium yellow because I want to show the bright sunshine. It's a really late afternoon sunshine. It has a golden tone on everything. So this layer is pretty much like an underpainting. I'm trying to establish a warm, inviting atmosphere of my environment that I see. So this may not be captured by the camera because the color often looks pretty pale from a snapshot. Seeing with the human eye, we can sense much more quality of life. Okay, and moving on to the second layer, I'm starting to add this mix of viridian green and yellow to paint the lawns near and far. And I'm also going to paint the evergreen trees in the distance right here. They're pretty much the same color as the lawns, mixing in more brown or burnt sienna into viridian green to get a shade color of this green around the bottom where the sunshine could not reach. So by mixing in a bit of burnt sienna or brown, we can get a shade tone of green. It's good to use for trees and bushes and other greeneries in the landscape. And now I'm starting to add a second layer for this big golden tree. brown mixed in with a little bit blue to get a dark tone for the tree trunk, branches, and twigs. So as you can see, I try to paint the different objects that had the same color at the same time, so it really saves time that I don't have to go back to the same color again. So as you can see, the tree trunks and the rooftop there has the same brown color. That's how I paint. Adding some shade color for the windows using leftover blue. And now I mixed orange and brown together and use very small choppy brush strokes to suggest the texture of the leaves. Because the color gold contains multiple shades of yellow orange, orange, brown orange. So painting this way just makes it look more dynamic. So when I'm drawing and painting, pretty much on any day, the lighting and sometimes the weather is always changing. So the color is very impermanent. And this is one of the reasons that we don't need to stress about the accuracy of the colors that we use. We're actually painting, choosing the colors based on our feelings, not only based on the seeing. So sometimes we can even exaggerate the color by making it more vibrant instead of following what we see with the eye. We can add a lot of emotions by making the colors more vibrant. So there's no need to copy real life. We're using real life as a reference to express ourselves. And we're trying to bring out the beauty in the seemingly boring landscape by our choice of colors, composition, and other kinds of art techniques. Okay, so now I am moving back to painting the greens. Viridian green with a little bit brown or burnt sienna. So it's a darker tone. Blending in a little bit that orange yellow because the color of the golden tree is reflecting around it. Just a tiny bit here and there. Okay, and get an even darker tone of green to paint this cone-shaped evergreen tree behind. And now I'm using these loose little brush strokes to paint this little tree here on the back. It has very few leaves on it. Red orange. And adding the loose leaves on this tree here. It's almost bare with just a few leaves hanging on there. It's very interesting to see trees in the same landscape having different amount of leaves. I think this tree is really closer to where the wind came from. That's why it lost a lot of leaves, much more leaves than the other one. Okay, and painting this red car here. And using the leftover bluish gray to paint the other cars and add a shade for the red car. I think most cars are either gray, black, or white. That's the three most common colors. Painting these fallen leaves on the lawn with orange-brown color. and paint the bushes around the house there. Okay, and looking and seeing and moving on to the final polish, just add another quick layer of brown orange, shadow around the sidewalk, a little bit darker green tone there on top of that, those trees. And seeing more carefully and add these shadows underneath the cars. Cars are very strong shadows underneath. And shade color for the lawn because it's in shade at this moment. The lighting condition is changing very fast late in the afternoon. Okay, and here is my finished sketch. So thank you so much for watching my video. If you liked my video, please click like and leave me a comment below. Any questions or suggestions, you can leave me a comment below. And subscribe to my channel for weekly updates. I will see you very soon next time. Have a great day.